Hey, good morning. This is Jeff here at the National Weather Service office in Wakefield. This is the briefing for Thursday, July 24th. We'll talk about the weather from today all the way through the weekend and into early to mid of next week. One thing we're going to be highlighting is the high risk of rip currents that is in effect really for the southern beaches, and then we have a moderate threat in the northern beaches. A lot of rip current rescues yesterday, so we'll be talking about that. And also increasing heat. That's going to be kicking in tomorrow and really building through the weekend and into early next week. So kind of getting right into it, looking at the rip current risk, that's kind of the headline for today. We do have a high risk of rip currents here from Virginia Beach all the way down through the Outer Banks. Kind of have that easterly flow, southeasterly flow with waves coming onto the beach again today, keeping those rip currents and the waves pretty rough conditions. A lot of rescues yesterday. Same thing up here from Assateague all the way through Ocean City. Got that south to southeast flow, continuing the waves coming right into shore. Had a lot of water rescues up in Ocean City yesterday and continued moderate risk today. So definitely something we want to watch out for. It does look like the waves are going to be decreasing here as we get through tonight and into tomorrow. So right now we have a low risk of rip currents everywhere. We may still have to watch out for our southern beaches here for tomorrow. That could be a moderate risk, but for the most part, we think the waves will be coming down to around 2 feet. And that's going to continue even into this weekend, into Saturday. So that's good news. The rip current risk has been pretty rough the last couple of days, and it looks like things are going to be improving Friday and through the weekend as high pressure kind of comes in and dominates. So that's the good news. Looking at the weather pattern, we'll kind of look and see what's going on the big picture satellite wise. And so when you look at the whole continental U.S., you notice, for us, a lot of clear skies here. There's a front that's been stalled here offshore off of Cape Hatteras, so that's why you see that band of clouds there. And the other thing that jumps out at you really is this cluster of showers and storms in the Gulf of Mexico. That's an area that we're watching, just a cluster of storms right now. The Hurricane Center does have a 10% probability that this area may develop into some type of a tropical system, but the confidence is very low. It's just a big cluster of showers and storms. And of course, you see a much bigger cold front here across parts of the Midwest, the middle part of the country. That'll maybe try to sneak in here a little bit later, but most likely not going to make it through our neck of the woods. So if we just kind of look in a little bit tighter, you can definitely see a lot of sunny skies across the region right now. Again, that stalled cold front here right off the Outer Banks here, kind of just parked to our south. It's going to wash out. That front that brought us this, drier air. It's felt pretty good the last couple of mornings. That front stalled to our west and eventually going to kind of wash out. So if we step ahead, the weather pattern, kind of look at the fronts here the next couple of days, we'll kind of look at the big picture across the entire country. So if we go to this afternoon, again, that's that stalled front sitting there right across the Carolinas, maybe out off of Hatteras. It's just going to sit out there and wash out as high pressure kind of dominates our weather. Jump into tomorrow morning, and again, definitely have big high pressure dominating really most of the south and the mid-Atlantic region here. That cold front trying to push through the Great Lakes. But if you look here on Saturday, it gets maybe through the Delmarva. Maybe that cold front sneaks down, through the Maryland Eastern Shore down to maybe about Wallops Island. But this front is actually going to stall out. We're not expecting it to push through our neck of the woods. So it's going to get close. I'm going to stall out a little bit. But then eventually by Sunday morning here, notice that front has gone back to the north. It couldn't make it. And so now it loses its push and things shift back to the north. And what you notice is the high pressure that was out here over Texas and parts of Mississippi and Louisiana is starting to shift east. And this is by Sunday and even into Monday. Now everybody's under big high pressure from Texas all the way to the mid-Atlantic. And the reason why that is important is if you look at the temperatures, these are the high temperatures that are going to pop up for yesterday. You can see basically our high temperatures here were pretty, only in the 80s. So actually felt great yesterday. But if you look to the west, once you get across Mississippi, Louisiana, especially Texas, you are seeing a lot more upper 90s to even around 100 degrees. So the heat is out there, and this heat is going to shift to the east, especially as we push through later this weekend and into early next week. So watch out for that. That's the heat that's coming along with the humidity. So we do expect some heat indices getting around 105, maybe to 110. So we'll talk more about that here in a few minutes. So jumping into the forecast, right into it, just you can kind of see the daily highs and lows and chance of precipitation. What you're seeing here is basically Today's not too bad. Back up into the 90s for high temperatures starting tomorrow, and these mid to upper 90 just for high temperatures really last from Saturday all the way through Wednesday. So we're going to get into another seasonably, I'll say, warm hot spell. Nothing too extreme, but enough where we're probably going to have heat advisories that are going to have to be in effect here for several days. Looking at the chance of precipitation, you really don't see it much at all. No chances today, no chances tomorrow. For Saturday, maybe there's a 10 to 20% chance of an isolated shower or storm late in the evening. Same thing there again for Sunday into Monday, Sunday night and early Monday morning. Just very isolated. Nothing really to hang your hat on. I mean, if you get a shower or storm, you're lucky, pretty much. Most places will remain dry. So looking at the 3-day thunderstorm potential, there's no risk of severe storms. Obviously for Friday, maybe an isolated thunderstorm here, the area in green, very, very isolated. Saturday, we could see an isolated pop-up shower or storm just about anywhere. But again, you're only talking 10 to 20% chance of a thunderstorm here. So nothing really as far as any kind of rainfall is expected. And no heavy rainfall or flooding expected for the next several days and really into next week. Looking at the actual rainfall accumulations, again, today through Saturday night, if anybody does see a shower, it's probably going to be mainly along or north of 64. I mean, there could be a stray shower here on a sea breeze, I guess, across the Albemarle Sound, but nothing really exciting here. Very, very low chances of precipitation. Maybe a little bit better Sunday through Tuesday, but again, this is all still very, very isolated. You do see a little bit better chance for some precipitation here where that cold front might stall out from, I'd say Wallops Island, Accomack, up through the northern neck, Maryland Eastern Shore. Well, we'll see if we can get a shower to just our storm to spark off there. That's why you see a little bit better chance for maybe getting some rainfall accumulation up there. But really, everybody else, maybe you get hit by a stray shower or storm. Maybe you don't. I'm not really expecting much rainfall accumulation at all. So shifting gears right into the heat, kind of looking at the heat risk for different days here. Friday does start to increase a little bit, and then Saturday and then Sunday you see more red on the map. So the heat will be expanding, and that heat is going to last into next week. So just going and looking right at the daily values across the region, you notice today we don't have much of an issue with the heat index, but by Friday, depending on how fast the humidity comes back, we are looking at potential heat indices of about 100 and I'd say 100 to maybe about 105. Some places might be getting to just over 105. But then by Saturday, the heat does continue to build, starting to see some higher values here, more 105 degree readings. And even Sunday, I notice some of these values get even higher. So the heat's going to build through the weekend. Even into Monday, we're seeing a lot of maybe 101 to maybe 107, and that continues all the way through Wednesday. The good news is it does look like once we get past Wednesday, the heat is going to start to abate. So I think we'll start to see some relief when we get into Thursday, Friday, and even into next weekend. But once we get into this weekend, the heat is going to be with us, all the way through the weekend, and I'd say through at least the middle part of next week. So looking at the actual daily values, this is actually for Friday. You notice that the heat indices of about 105 or so are really limited to, I'd say, the coastal areas, maybe right along the bay, right along the Albemarle Sound counties here. Parts of Eastern Shore, getting up to about maybe 106. So it's just a matter of how fast the humidity comes back. Temperatures are going to be warmer on Friday. The humidity is going to start returning. Places inland will probably stay just below 105, whereas you get closer to the water, I think things will be getting up to about 105. So we could see a fairly limited heat advisory for tomorrow, keying in on those 105 degree readings. So stay tuned. When we get into Saturday, though, you do notice those values do go up. And so the heat increases, the humidity increases. And so pretty much all of us are now above 105 degrees, maybe even flirting with 110 in a few locations, especially here across Northeast North Carolina. You do see that Maryland might be just a shade cooler. Maybe the heat index there is about maybe 100 degrees. And again, that's because that weak cold front is going to sneak through to about maybe Wallops Island. So that's why they're a little bit cooler up here in Maryland and maybe parts of the Accomack County. But as you get south of there, I think the heat index is going to quickly get up to about 106 plus. So I do expect more heat advisories across the entire region for Saturday. And remember, Sunday's even warmer. Sunday, the heat's going to build and things are going to feel even hotter on Sunday than what you see here. So again, just another period there of, I guess I'll call it seasonable heat with maybe some heat advisories lasting several days. So getting into that, the probability here of seeing 105 or greater on Sunday, really pretty high. Got a strong signal that Sunday is going to be really warm. 70 to 80% probability that we're going to see at least 105. There's even good chance that we'll see 110 in some locations here on Sunday. So Sunday is going to be a really hot day. The heat's going to continue into Monday. The probabilities decrease a little bit here, about 40 to 60% probability of the heat lasting into Monday. That might increase here a little bit, just depends upon how things play out. And then notice Tuesday, again, really high probability of 105 or greater. And this really, again, continues into Wednesday, where you see a lot of 105 readings. But then hopefully by Thursday, things are starting to improve. We get a pattern change, and that heat starts to kind of lose its grip on the region. And this is the good news. I'm getting into the 8 to 14 day outlook. You notice that the outlook for temperatures is actually below normal. So we're looking at a potential, pattern shift here. This goes from July 31st to about August 6th. So we should see a change in the pattern where the temperatures will be on average below normal, a good confidence there, and maybe even getting into a wetter pattern where we see maybe some above normal chances of getting above normal precipitation. So we'll see how that plays out. But bottom line is there is a pattern shift coming late next week and into next weekend that may allow us to cool off a little bit and kind of return some of the rainfall to the region. Looking at the tropics, this is the area that we talked about earlier, the X here, where we have that cluster of showers and storms here off the Gulf Coast. Looking to see if that may develop a centralized circulation. We'll see. The confidence is pretty low, only 10% chance that it may develop. And if it does develop, the general trend would be for it to drift kind of more to the west here and staying along the Gulf Coast. So low confidence in this region, but there is a cluster of showers and storms down there right now that we are monitoring. On the marine side, have a little bit of wind today. That's why you see it lighting up here on the bay with that south to south-southeast wind, about maybe 15 knots, gusting to 20 knots or so here for a little while. But then the rest of the days, you notice you don't see the maps lighting up much at all, so the winds do decrease. And so these are those peak winds today, maybe getting up to around 16 to maybe a few gusts of 20 knots here near the mouth of the bay and the lower bay here, maybe about 15 to 20 knots along the coast. And again, that wind direction is generally out of the southeast and east, which is why we have that rip current threat along the coast, that onshore wind with those onshore waves kind of bumping things up a little bit. Friday, you notice the winds go a little bit more southwest, so you're getting more of a land-based wind, so that should help the sea state. And things get a little bit more variable as you get into Saturday. It just depends upon how far down that front pushes. Winds may start out, southwest, becoming northwest, and then maybe east, briefly before coming south again on Sunday. So the winds Saturday could be a little variable, something to keep an eye on if you're out there on the water, depending on your wind direction. It just depends upon how far down that cold front sneaks through, and if it causes just enough of a wind shift to kind of change those conditions, where you may be boating. And looking at the bigger picture, sustained winds here at the top, gusts here at the bottom. Bottom line is you're not seeing a lot of strong wind here at all. So this is all sub-small craft advisory conditions. Just might see a little bit of variability in the wind directions with those peak winds, generally around maybe 15 to 20 knots today and tomorrow, and then a lot lighter over the weekend. Same thing with the sea state, about maybe 2 feet or so on the bay today. And then sea state should be decreasing tomorrow with more of a southwest wind, probably 1 to 2 feet on the bay, probably 2 to 3 feet on the ocean. As you see here, sea state is generally anywhere from 1 to 3 feet, 1 to 2 feet here for the next couple of days. So no extreme conditions there on the marine side. So that's it. Our next live briefing will be Monday morning at 11 a.m. along with our email briefings that we will continue as we get into some heat this weekend. So as we issue heat advisories, we will be keeping folks updated on where those advisories are in effect.